Good morning. I would like to welcome you on this talk about telecommunication security. This is a cooperation between Nokia Bell Labs. I'm Silke Holtmanns, Bhanu Kotte, who could not be here today, also from Nokia Bell Labs, and Siddharth from Aalto University in Finland here. And we will introduce to you sort of what's happening actually on the telecommunication backend. So let's start with something simple. So we are here in London and United Kingdom. You are all connected to Vodafone, O2, BT, or Orange, or 3, or some network operator here. You are maybe from Europe. You are having a subscription from Orange, Deutsche Telekom, Telecom Italia, or Vodafone E+, or some other network provider. There's your SIM card from, or UICC card to be correct. I'm from Finland, so I have a subscription from Elisa. My family and friends and colleagues, they have from TeliaSonera, DNA. So there are not that many operators in Finland. So it's a short list. The Black Hat stuff, it's coming from America, so they have AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, or Sprint subscriptions, or some other subscriptions. We are all here, and the Black Hat stuff can call me, I can call them, even if we are both not connected to our home network. They can send messages, we can all use data. So how is it actually working? You have to remember, these are independent companies. They are not one big company or anything. Still, it works. So why does it actually work? So that's something sort of most people are not that well aware of. There's a big network behind it. All those network operators, they are connected via the interconnection network. It's a private and closed network. It's not the internet, no. It's a worldwide network, and billions of users and devices actually connected to it via their local operator. And the GSMA Association, which is actually headquartered in London, just around the corner, they facilitate this roaming and help operators setting up their connections. So we are talking here about 200 countries and roughly about 800 operators, mobile network operators. So that's roughly the scale you have to think of, and I don't know how many billions of users and devices, but several ones. I know at least China Mobile, for example, has more than 1 billion subscribers. So let's see. Things are getting now a bit more interested in the sense that we don't have only classical phones, but we have there on the top, you see, for example, a tablet with Android operating system, let's say in Anchorage, connected to AT&T. There we have a connected scale with Linux on it, some geek twittering his weights every morning, connected to, let's say, T-Mobile. Then we have on the bottom a Telefonica connected car in South America. In the middle and the bottom we have something closer to here. That's a BT connected gas meter. In the morning, actually, I saw on the underground some things like control your heat remotely with your phone. So I don't know how they do that, but anyway, that's probably some sort of Linux operating system. On the red box on the bottom there, it's a fire alarm in Australia, probably connected to Telstra. On the right-hand side, you see a factory automated assembly line roboter in Japan, probably connected to NTT Docomo. And on the top, an iPhone, probably China Unicom or China Mobile connected to that one, and having iOS. All those devices are connected to the interconnection network via their local operator. So even if they are abroad, or if they are not abroad, it doesn't matter, they are connected to the interconnection because somebody might want to connect them. So you never know if you get a call from abroad. So they are always connected to the interconnection via their local operator. So to understand the security issues about this interconnection network, we have to go a bit back in history. So now things come a bit weird. So we talk here about the Nordic mobile telephony network from 1981. That was the first Yeah, I see some people remember there. Actually, I wanted to bring this phone here, but it was this big and weighed something like 10 kilograms, so I actually didn't bring it. It was too heavy for my suitcase. So I just have to live with the photo of the first Nokia Talkman. And that's the first phone that was used there. So it was a phone system, so basically the first roaming system from Norway, Denmark, Finland, and Sweden in 81. Some of you were not even born then. So it was built on trust. I mean, they just knew each other and they just wanted to make it work. And so it started with these 4. And the protocol used there is the signaling system number 7. And it was constantly extended. Then the next country come along, the next operator, some new features, SMS, data. And so it was extended the whole time. And now we are in a phase where we move away from this SS7, the signaling system number 7 protocol, towards 4G LTE diameter based. So they started as a closed system where they trusted each other. And the main security feature of that system was this trust, and that it is a closed network. And now we go to have a visit this assumption, because is it still true? You remember I talked about 200 countries and 800 operators. And here we go. On the top you see here wholesale. The European Union has issued a law to encourage competition, which says that an European Union operator has to lease out their services to virtual network operators. That's to encourage competition, so that there are a lot of mobile virtual network operators and that their prices go down, which is in principle a very good idea, but you never know exactly who is renting. And operators are basically forced out. They cannot say no. If there's a reasonably company coming and say we want to set up a virtual network operator, operators in the EU have to rent it out, all their services, including the interconnection service. So most operators have a so-called wholesale business. It sometimes runs under a different company name, but they have it all in you. So there we have some area where it's no longer closed. Here we have some service from the darknet, actually, where somebody is renting out location tracking, eavesdropping, or just offering the API. So I don't know if they just take a credit card or if they also offer a service. I haven't tested that, but it's there. And some people said it's a real service. At the bottom here, we have an Internet of Things search engine, Shodan. Some people of you might have heard of it. And you can find there actually nodes which shouldn't be visible on the Internet, because it's a telco world. And these nodes, this GGSN, it shouldn't be connected to the Internet. But for some reason it is. I don't know. It might just be a honeypot. Could be. China Mobile is pretty close to the Chinese government, so please don't hack it. It might be a bad idea. So there we have something where this closed is no longer that true. On the other side there, we have intelligence services, and in the top you see something UK, that's the GCHQ, which hacked Belgacom and the GTP protocol in 2013. For what purpose, I don't know exactly. But so somebody was in there from the middle on the right-hand side. You see a map from the Snowden slides which describes telco networks which have been compromised by NSA. I think it just means that at least one country is compromised when it's sort of marked there. So if I remember correctly. And on the right-hand side, on the bottom, you have something recently where the German Bundeswehr, that's the German military, hacked the Afghan phone network for to be able to target people. So this kind of telco network information is reluctantly used in drone programs and also to target individuals. But it was not designed for that purpose. I mean, location tracking and so on in phone network is designed so that when you move from A to B, you basically don't lose your call. So it was not designed for this purpose. But I think in general we can say this assumption of a closed and private network, it's no longer valid in that form as it has been in 1981. So how do attackers now get in? Because it's not in the Internet, it's something separate. So as you saw, they can rent this service from the darknet. they can hack their way into when they have nodes visible on Shodan or other IoT search engines. They can have the power. You have to remember that operators are dependent on their local government to get the license for operating. So in some countries, this is properly separated, intelligence services and other branches of the government, but in some countries, it's not. So if there are then suddenly some guys in front of your door saying, well, we want to have access to SS7 or to the interconnection network, or you won't operate next year. I mean, it's a hard decision for an operator what to do then. So saying we close business, please all employees go home, no service. Well, it's challenging, I would say. Of course, there are the classical ways to get in, like bribing an employee, getting access that way, or becoming an operator, like we saw in the EU case. We will have an example of that one later on. Or you can do just social engineering. It still exists even in telco. There have been one case known where there was a letter sent around, sort of, I'm an operator, I want to have connection to your interconnection, which resulted actually in a contract, but to my knowledge, not actually in real access of sending messages. So that was, somebody got sort of, what's that? So, and they figured out that there's a problem. So that's how attacker get in. So next step, what does an attacker face once he managed to get access? Not much, honestly. So the current status of IPX security. The most commonly used protocol is signaling system number 7 and MAP protocol. You might have seen in the news some hacks. I will describe them later on. And often intermediate nodes are involved. So for the big connections, that means where a lot of people call each other, the operators might decide to have a sort of personal cable between these two operators. So that's reasonably secure. But on the other hand, think now of something nice, sort of nice, warm, Fiji Islands, Pacific, marvelous place. French Polynesia, you might have a rough idea where this is. Let's see, Palau, it's some islands in the Pacific, 17,500 subscribers there. Or Tuvalu, you might have heard that, the first island that's going to be, the first state that's going to be drowning because of the rising of the sea level. They have 2,000 subscribers, and the Tuvalu operator has 47 employees. So let me guess, there is no cable from UK to Tuvalu. No dedicated cable there. So that's probably a safe guess. So what most likely is happening that Tuvalu has some Pacific service provider, and this Pacific service provider has a contract with somebody, probably US or South America, and those guys have a contract with the UK operator. So it means if you call somebody in Tuvalu, that means that your call is first routed to US, then to this Pacific service provider, and then to Tuvalu, and the whole way back. So there are intermediate nodes, and we come later on to that when we talk about how to secure that. SS7 has been recently shown to be quite weak, and it has been shown live on TV. In Australia, CBS 60 Minutes, Senator Nick's cellphone was hacked live, eavesdropping an SMS. And in US, Congressman Liu was hacked by security researchers Carsten Nohr and Luca Milletta, which caused quite a hiccup with the Federal Communication Commission in US. So these are the legacy SS7 protocol attacks, and we will go briefly through them. So what's there already? So we know that there are location tracking attacks. 2008 was the first that was on big region level. So in 2008, you could figure out if somebody's in Scotland or in London, sort of on that level, so but not much more if somebody's traveling. In 2014, things got a bit hot, and they figured out cell level tracking. That cell level can be down to sort of a block of streets here in London. So just in the countryside, it's bigger, but here in London, it's probably just sort of a small block of streets. Eavesdropping was shown live on TV. There were some fraud attacks. Let's not go into that. That's not covered by my insurance if I explain you how to do that. This eavesdropping, actually, on the right-hand side here, this Bulgarian, that's actually an example where somebody has rented access as a virtual network operator from normal, honest operators. And at least I've been in contact with one operator and they managed to close down that access. But they rented it out in good faith. So they didn't know that this guy would be sort of misusing it and put it on the darknet and then offer the service there. So, and they might find another operator now. So it's not a safe way to put them out of business, but at least I closed one door for them. Denial of service attack. Yeah, Telenor had a very bad experience on that one. There was some unauthorized testing ongoing. And some of you might remember ping of death. Yeah, so that's the web version of it. But it was an implementation-specific version, to be honest. And luckily, it wasn't one of our nodes. But, well. So, denial of service attacks against users and networks are possible. Credential theft, that are the keys that are in your SIM card. They're also stored in the subscriber database, and they can be pulled from there. Data session hijacking, that's what's happening with the GTHQ doing with Belgacom, GTP protocol hijacking. Unlocking stolen phones, that is something implementation specific. Basically meaning that when your phone is stolen, you go to the operator, say, and the phone has been stolen, and he puts it on the blacklist. So via SS7, we managed to whitelist it, so to put it off the list again, which is quite nice for somebody who is selling that because it increases the values of the stolen phones. SMS interception. It's very tricky because SMS is nowadays used for banking applications, for IoT usage, sort of to steer some devices like heating and so on. Even I saw a burglar alarm that's using SMS. Marvelous idea. Two-factor authentication like Google, Microsoft, eBay, and Twitter are using. So you can even go to YouTube and see how they use SS7 to get the password. I think it was for Facebook, but could also be Telegram. So I don't know which one it was. So this is also, SMS interception is quite risky because of this usage for other purposes. And actually, there on the right-hand bottom corner, there's a nice sort of piece of information, and that the Russian government fired somebody because they were using WhatsApp and other fiber for sharing governmental information between themselves. And I don't know if it was due to this SS7 problem or that most of those services are hosted by US companies. So I don't know what the real reason, but there were some people fired. And actually also if you search the NIST, the National Standards Institute in US, in their latest draft for authentication, if you go down, somewhere in chapter 5, I think, they said that SMS, please don't no longer use it for authentication purposes or sensitive stuff. I don't remember the exact phrasing, but it's in their new draft. So I think they realized that there will be some issues. So that's the legal C protocol, SS7. Now we move to new times, 4G, LTE, big bit pipes, and so on. So some people might say, all will be better with LTE and diameter. We will have no security issues because everything is perfect and so on. So I tend to sort of somewhat disagree. I say it will be different. So, and the reason is SS7 and MAP and diameter, they are made for a similar job, let's call it that way. You roam, you set up a call, you update a location, you want to send an SMS. So the ideas for the function, what it's supposed to do, is very, very similar. It's not the same protocol. It works slightly different. The protocol fields are different. So it's not a one-to-one thingy. So, but it's the ideas of the messages are very, very similar. So, and recently also some attacks were known. This year there was location tracking on a NATO conference in Tallinn. There were some interworking attacks. That's basically a bidding down attack. And also SMS interception. I hope to get that published next year somewhere. So it's submitted and on review. SMS interception is also possible in diameter, which is interesting for all these one-time password things in 4G. So also diameter has some new features. of course, every time there's a new protocol, they want everybody. I'm married to a geek, so everybody wants to put a lot of features in it. So, and that's no different here with 4G and LTE. So let's see how these features might be exploited in the future, sort of to come. I have to pull you through that, but I try to keep a gentle touch on it because I know most of you are not from telco environment. So, but there are some nodes I will talk about, so you have to know roughly at least what we are known. So you have here all the kinds of devices. You have phones, tablets, cameras, whatever. You have here the access network, and we are talking about the backend. So this is the HSS. This is the most important piece in an operator database. It's the thing where all your subscription data is stored. If you have prepaid, postpaid data, flat rate, it's all stored in the HSS. If this box is down, you have no network. Nothing. Believe me, if an operator updates its HSS, they all sort of sit there, sort of, if it's working, if it's working, if it's working. So HSS is the most critical piece of infrastructure in an operator network. There, all the data of all subscribers for one operator are in there. Then there are the mobility management entities. These guys basically keep track sort of where you are and manage those guys here, those antenna guys. An operator, let's say in UK, probably has between 5 and 10 of them for the whole network. So we are here in London, so in London they might have 2 or something. So I don't know exactly, but there will not be too many here. So they cover a very large region, usually, and a lot of subscribers. Here on the edge of the network, we have something called diameter edge agent. Think of it as some sort of doorkeeper for diameter. And when you connect to another network, the other cloud over there, you might have to go via some IPX providers. Remember the Pacific example? These would be the US guys or the Pacific guys here. And on the other side, you have basically the mirror of this network here. So that's how 2 mobile LTE networks would connect in a very simple manner. So next we introduced a testing setup that we used. There was a major global operator, which also here in UK, which allowed us to connect to their test network. So from Finland, we were connecting to the test network here in UK. And the introduction will be done by my colleague, Bhanu Kotte. You cannot hear him reluctantly because for technical reasons. But I will take you to the test setup anyway. So, basically, here, that's us in Finland. We connect to the diameter edge agent of theirs. So, and in the test network has here the home subscriber service. So the box here on top. The mobility entity. Then we had the radio base station in the test network of our friendly operator. And then we had a terminal, a UE connected. That's a dongle in that case. That's also why you see the name Huawei. So there's nothing wrong with Huawei. It's just that we use their dongle. That's why you would see their name on the slides further on. So that's the test setup that we used. Let's go back to the slide. So now we have to do the IMSI retrieval. I know some of you have been yesterday in the talk in the first one in the morning on this, where they used wireless LAN EAP AKA for retrieving the IMSI. This is another way to do this thing. So because this is a talk about interconnection, and so what is the IMSI for those guys who haven't been here yesterday? So you know each other's phones by phone number, but actually the phone network is using something else. It's using something IMSI, that's International Mobile Subscriber Identity. It's your ID in the phone network. Most messages in the phone network, well, nearly all, need this number. It's a 15-digit number, and without that you cannot send messages because that's how you identify for which subscribers this message is. You need to know that. So what we do actually here, I try to describe that in rough terms. We claim to be an SMSC. We are saying, hello, I'm an SMS server in a foreign country and I have an SMS I want to deliver to that user. can you please tell me his identity and where I can find him? That's this message, this SRR, send routing information for short message request, SRR. So basically I'm just saying, hey, I have a message, can you help me deliver it? And of course the HSS is a very nice one. It says, yes, of course, this is the IMSI and here's the server that's handling these users, this MME. So this is for those people who are familiar with the SS7 attacks that have been presented by Carsten Knoll, this is basically a mirror of the SRI-SM trick that was done there. So in that case, the similarity between diameter and SS7 is very high. To get the IMSI, as we saw yesterday, you can also use wireless LAN, aka protocol, or you can get physical access to the device, or you can go to China, if the person happens to be there, and rent for $50 a fake base station per an hour in Beijing. So that's the usual price there. They put it on a motorbike. It's marvelous. So that's how you get the IMSI, and from there you can really then start launching an attack. So let's kick the user out of the network. How we do this? We make a cancel location request. So what is this usually for? So it's usually a sort of clean up message. So when you move from one area to another area, so it's for housekeeping. If some data is no longer needed, then it's sort of cleaned up. Also, if you don't pay your bills, of course you all pay your bills, but just in case you forget too long to do it, your operator will send this cleaning message to the MME, basically to wipe you from the network. So it contains the IMSI we just got, and it says subscription withdrawal, in that case, that we send here this cancellation type 2, sort of, and we do something nasty. We set the CLL flag 3, and what that is doing, it asks the device to reconnect again. I will later explain why we are doing that. So, because it has some nice side effect. So we have another video here, how it's run live. Well, not really live. So that's my colleague Bhanu. You cannot hear his voice again, but never mind. So we have here the cancel location request that we send. We have here the cancellation type, which means subscription withdrawal. And the flag here asking the device to reconnect again, so that we kick it out and then we ask it to come back. So, and you will see soon why we are doing it. So he starts it. As I said, this is just for the dongle. And so he starts it. Yeah, I'm sorry, we were not allowed. The PR department of the operator didn't want us to mention the name. But they're great guys and they do a great job on security. So we have seen much other things. So here we start the client. And wait, initialize the stacks. So now it's still connected. Soon will go unconnected. And then come back again. And then we should see what's happening. You see here it disconnects, and the terminal immediately connects again. So here you see the diameters that are going on. So, and it's also some lower level messages like the NAS messages. Here you see the cancel location request, and then actually what happens then, first the detach takes place, and then afterwards the new attach takes place. And the interesting part about that is, if you're not too interested in the details, is that on the interconnection we send one message, and it's causing something like 20 messages on the radio interface. So that means an attacker can use that for an amplification of an attack. So you can first track a bunch of users that are residing in the same area and then send, let's say, to those 200 persons these messages. And then they all would come back with 20 messages per each guy and sort of do quite some damage for the MME. We haven't tested the limit. As we said, we did that in a test network, because if we would do that in a real network, we might close a service for London accidentally or something like that. So we didn't want to do that. So you might understand that. So, but we noticed that there is a side effect too, and that might cause a signaling storm. So there's a risk of a denial of service attack, not only against the user, but due to this amplification against the MME in the network. So, and as said, we don't know exactly how big the risk is, because that depends on many parameters: how big the MME is scaled, sort of how many users are there already in, how big the signaling load is in that moment in the network. So it's hard to test it in real without causing damage. So that's not the only way to kick out a user. We have actually 4 ways, but I only show you 2 videos, don't bother. So that's an IDR, that's insert subscriber data request. It's used for updating information. So let's say you upgraded your account, you bought in some new services or similar stuff. So what we are doing, we impersonate a home network and say to the mobility management entity, here, this user, the subscription has changed. Please update the service which you can give to the user. So in this case, we use the number 511. And that means nothing. So that means that you don't get any service. It's the sort of basically the kill command. So we forbid every service. Operate determined barring, it's called. And depending on which number you put at the end, you might allow or disallow some services. So, and here we say no service. So, of course, you can think about playing around with the number, but I suppose that you are still billed for it. I haven't tested it out because we didn't have a billing system in the test network. So, but you would get service if you play around with that number. You would get access to the service. It's just a question of what happens afterwards. So, but if you have a prepaid and you put there all services, I don't know exactly what would happen. So there's some risk of fraud here, I would say, some potential risk. So, and even if the attack is to the MME, since the MME, as explained, covers a very large area, it has quite an impact. So as long as you would stay in this area, you are affected by this attack. So here's the video again, how it works. And we insert subscriber data there. Insert subscriber data request. There we have the username, that's the IMSI we fished before. And here we have operator determined barring. And with the value 511, which basically says no service at all. And here, which means you are sort of permanently disconnected. So there are some more messages, but it's not so bad as in the other cancel location request. But so the amount of messages sent on the radio channel is not that big. So you see it's soon going into disconnected state, and it just stays there, no service. And whatever you do, it won't help, because your MME thinks that your subscription has changed, you're not allowed to do something. So you would really need to call the operator, not with that phone, but with another phone, and tell him to fix basically your profile, which probably takes a while. So, because then also the update needs to take place in the different nodes. So this is here the NAS level messages on the radio interface, and there you are disconnected. So, oops. And the other way to disconnect, I don't go to show that as a video, but it also works. So it's an update location request. It's usually something very commonly sent, so it's not a message you can just block or something. When you move from another country, one of the first things that's happening is that an update location request is saying, hey, the user is here now, please please update the location. And what's happening then, that the location information sends to the subscriber database, and this basically cleans up then the information in your previous location. So you're basically deleted from your previous location because you're no longer there, so why should the data be there? So that's just an efficiency measure. So, and we have there the flag number 6, which is basically indicates that this cleaning up operation, the CLR operation, should take place. So update location request is just a simple sort of kick out. It's no big side effects. And actually, but this one can be fixed very easily if you switch off your phone and reconnect. Then it's sort of, your phone should be able to get service again. So that's actually quite harmless in that sense. That's easily to sort of fix from a user's point of perspective. What else? We have something that's sort of like a sitting duck in the sense that we combine several message types, denial of service using this insert subscriber data, IDR, and we add there a flag saying, flag 1, saying that we want to have information when the user comes back. So this he says, so please inform me when the user shows up. And he says, yep, I will do that. And then the user pops up, and then a notification request is, hey, the user's there. And then you say, I don't know that user. Who is that? And then it will detach because the user is unknown. So it's a sort of neat thing. But, well, it disconnects the user. This attack, if the user would then switch off his phone and switch it on again, then it should work again. So it's not the sort of permanent thing. So now we have seen several denial of service attacks, 4, one with performance impact on the network, and one which sort of has a risk of potential fraud. So now we come to the countermeasures. And you might say, okay, diameter, that's IP-based, so let's use IPsec. Well, that's not an armament from a company, so we have to take a practical view of things. We cannot just say to the operators, fix it all. We have to think about how it works, really works in practice. So 3GPP, that's a third generation partnership. This is something like IETF for telcos, for those people who are not familiar with them. They have standardized IPsec for core network nodes and TS33210, that's the NDS IP. It's actually mandatory to implement for us, so we have to implement that. But the use is optional. There's a small difference there, because some countries don't like security in their networks. Some legislators don't like that. I'm not going to mention any countries, but that's a fact. So also some network operators don't switch it on because they are afraid of performance impacts. So that's the way how things are. And so, and also there are some other hooks related to IPsec. So first there's this interworking with SS7, because SS7 uses SCTP, the third transport protocol. Some people might remember that there's a third one. So, and that means we still have to work with those guys, because there's no roaming. You cannot say, okay, we don't support that protocol. Dear user, you cannot travel there. You don't have phone connection there. No WhatsApp. So there's this interworking always. And then we come to a very, very tricky issue. Who will host, create the root certificates and generate the keys? I just throw some country names at you. China, UK, USA, Pakistan, India. Do you think those guys could agree on one root certificate? Who hosts the revocation list? Well, let's say unlikely, at least in the near future. Maybe we are optimistic and have world peace very soon. Also, there's a money issue involved. The third operator in South Sudan. Do you think he can afford a PKI infrastructure? And yeah, well, unlikely, I would say. Also remember this Tuvalu example with 47 employees. How many security experts do they have? Maybe one, maybe two. We're a little optimistic here. So it's also a matter of expertise. So, and they have 2,000 subscribers. If they buy now a signaling firewall, they cannot charge $50 more from each subscriber. just doesn't. So there are these sort of practical considerations. And also there's the hop-by-hop issue, as mentioned. So you only get hop-by-hop security even with IPsec. And also, even if everybody would have using IPsec, that would be perfect. But still, we have this renting out problem to service companies that do then something else with the XF once they have it. We have hacked nodes, we have bribed employees, and we have governmental ties, let's call it that way. So there's no helping those with IPsec if you sit in the endpoint and So, but still, IPsec, I think, is an important piece in the puzzle to protect things. So we saw SS7 has many weaknesses. We saw Diameter has also some weaknesses, maybe not as many as, hopefully not as many as SS7. So, but now is the right time to think about securing Diameter so that we don't end up in the same mess as we had in SS7. So first, people have to think about detecting what's going on in the network. Are the tenants really doing what they say they do and the contract? So you have to check very careful. Fraud mitigation systems help also quite a lot. The next step is to mitigate. Basically filtering at the edge of the... You remember this guy sitting on the edge of the cloud, this Diameter Edge agent? There's the right place to filter. You filter for messages, you filter for flags. You were seeing I was using some flags. So you can filter for those flags if they should be there in a normal roaming scenario or not. If they are suddenly there, they have no point of being there, so filter the message out. So IPsec already helps somewhat, because if you have partners that always would use IPsec towards you, and then suddenly it's coming something claiming to be from this partner, and not using IPsec, you think, there might be something fishy ongoing here. So IPsec somewhat helps, but it's not a silver bullet. So SMS routers and SMS home routing also protects the IMSI. Okay, you can still do a false base station, but it's a bit more cumbersome for an attacker. So just let's raise the threshold for an attacker. Cooperation between operators. Some operators are a very diverse bunch. So some of them are very security proactive. They share their results. They see successful countermeasures. Others are not so active. So it's important that they share their experience on successful, what works, what doesn't work. So also form circles of trust, meaning, for example, in countries where there's a good legal basis and close cooperation with legislators, they can agree, okay, that's what it means, our node hardening. That's to those guys we rent out. Those are the rules of service and so on. So in US, the FCC looks into that issue after the live TV hack. They have formed a special working group for this purpose. Let's see what comes out of it. So prepare. It's another important piece in the puzzle. So attacks are likely to come. SS7 attacks are real. They are just there. I suppose Diameter attacks will come when SS7 gets harder for an attacker, or if technology just moves on in a major way. So now is the time to prepare for Diameter attacks. And that starts also with setting up business rules. You might wonder, sort of, why are we talking here about business rules? Security costs money. Operators are usually held by shareholders. Have you ever tried to get money from shareholders? Or a budget reserve a big security budget? Oh, well, you're up for a challenge, I tell you that. They are not known for altruism and improving the world and privacy and so on. That's not their core competence. They want to see the money. So you must make a case for them. So you must sort of see the fraud cases. You must see when the HSS going down or risks like that. That catches their attention, because then they lose money and they don't like losing money. So you need to sort of investigate potential weaknesses and their risks for the company, because then you can get the money for the security. So that's also part of the preparation. So it's important to investigate potential weaknesses and countermeasures before they happen. And one other piece is hardening of nodes. It sounds maybe stupid to people who are used to internet, but in telco, this is still not so automatic as it is for normal internet nodes. So, but there you can sort of argue with quality of service and things like that. So prevent getting nodes. GSMA and also 3GPP have done some very good work on that, and it's ongoing. So things are moving forward there, but it's a long way to go. So, summary. Interconnection attacks, they are reality, but the main attacks we see today are focused on SS7. Diameter is not yet sort of fully on the radar of the attacker, but well, SS7 is a lower hanging fruit, it works, so yeah. Also the interconnection, most of them still using map and diameter, map and SS7. So for attacker, SS7 is at the moment the low-hanging fruit, but things move forward, so will the attackers. LTE diameter has similar functionality as SS7, so hence similar attacks are possible. Not exactly the same, but it's very similar. So we have seen 4 denial of service attacks, one with a potential fraud risk and one with that also has network performance issues. So the main question, will LTE face similar interconnection weaknesses as SS7? And I make the statement, if we don't take protection methods, we are in the same mess again. So we need to do something. So it's not that security comes by itself. So mobile networks arrived in the internet, so let's protect them. It's easy to blame and say fix, but it's really hard to do the fixing. So I would like to thank you, my audience, the Finnish Cyber Trust Project, which financed part of this research, and the major global operators for the support and security engagement, where I'm not allowed to name the name. So I hope, guys, I thank you very much, and you're doing a great job. So thanks a lot. I think there's one question.
My question
Can you stand up and speak loud so that the others can also hear you?
I see most of the attacks that you presented are coming from the endpoint. So it's coming from my mobile to the tower or to whatever server I'm talking to. So if I encrypted the communication between the mobile and the tower, I think I'll still be able to do the attack because it's coming from my endpoint. So I'm just encrypting.
Yeah, you encrypt till your communication is encrypted on the air interface, which means from your phone to the antenna or to the server, depending on which.
If I use the attack you were talking about
it doesn't matter if you encrypt the air interface.
Yes, so
because
the problem is with authentication because they depend only on the IMSI, right?
Yeah, the authentication depends on the CK and IK in your SIM card. That's how the authentication is done, and it's running between your SIM card and your home subscriber network, this HSS box. So
my question is, does IPsec will solve the problem? Because as per my understanding, I don't see it solving the problem because I will always, even if I'm encrypting the connection, I will still be able to issue the same disable all services over encrypted channel, but I'll be able to send the same message.
It doesn't matter if you use IPsec. It doesn't matter if you, from a user perspective, use IPsec from your phone. Basically, it doesn't matter even what phone you have or what device or what operating system. It doesn't matter at all because it's just an attack from the back end. So because the network has the common information about you, and it handles you basically. So thanks. Any other question? I think we have still time for one. There on the back.
You mentioned the challenges of implementing the PKI infrastructure.
Yeah.
Certificates. Is using certificates actually mandatory, or do you use, for example, with passwords or
So the question was if the IPsec in 3GPP basically uses, it's mandatory to use the certificate. Implementation-wise, we have to support the certificate variant. But of course, we can also implement variants for password, but I think actually that would be outside of the standard. I would need to check actually the NDS IP document, but I'm pretty sure that the default is the certificate one, and it can be that the other is an option. But I'm very sure that the certificate variant is the mandatory default. So, but it's implementation, not usage. So, yeah.
And so, a lot of what we spoke about sort of relied on having a IPX peer for the attacks to come in. I was just wondering what sort of checks is there like a set of checks that the operators go through before they allow a peering like that to happen?
You mean between the operator, one operator to another?
The home and the roaming operator.
It's a business decision, actually. It's done business contract. So, for example, if you have this, Apple has now this Apple SIM, for example. Apple doesn't have contracts with 200 operators. They have a contract with some service provider, which has then in turn 200 contracts. So it's very convenient from a business perspective because Apple's system just needs to take care of one contract and sort of outsources it that. So that's a typical way how things are done. So.
Yeah, if I understood this correctly, so I have to get into the Interconnect network first and then impersonate a partner.
Yeah.
Like that, right? Can I launch the attack against your own, so you are the operator? Can I launch the attack against your own users or only if they are roaming and they are connected to another operator? Because it doesn't make sense. Why would me as a third party, I would tell you, the operator of that particular user, disconnect the user because the subscription has changed. Because you are the only party to do that.
Yes, that depends. So the question was sort of how the checks actually work at the network boundary for if an operator. So the checks that an operator do at the network edge depends on the operator and how they configure the diameter edge agent. If it's in SS7, we saw cases where it was possible to send messages from the outside, but saying you are actually the home network. In SS7, there have been these kinds of cases. So where this was possible. And diameter, that depends strongly on the configuration of the edge agent. So, but I agree, it doesn't make sense sort of to disconnect your own user. But if it's not checked, then the message goes through. And that's the point. You need to configure these nodes properly so that they kick out messages which don't make sense. You need to sort of have some logic, sort of. You and I, we immediately see a message with my sender address shouldn't come over the interconnect. So, but that's a node, it just routes. So you need to sort of explain it to the router.
But I see the problem when you are roaming because you can say, I'm the home network, I'm the operator of
Yeah.
this user, you should disconnect it because I canceled your subscription or something like
Yeah,
that.
when you roam, you definitely sort of are a bit more exposed because then you are already in another network and the network you connect to knows not that much about you. You are sort of somewhat a foreigner to this network. So if you're on a home network, you always have a bit of sort of better protection than in a roaming network. That's just by the nature of the protocols, yeah. Thanks. Okay, thank you again. I hope you enjoyed this brief introduction to telco security. Thanks a lot.